Hey, fellow CST classmates, today we're going to talk about computers. First, I want to tell you what would happen if every computer in the world stopped working today. The events would be catastrophic. Planes would fall out of the sky, companies and governments would grind to a halt, resulting in economic ruin and famine, and our nuclear plants would be uncontrollable, resulting in millions of deaths worldwide. Now, as an IT, I've spent my life studying and learning about computers, and today I'm going to inform you about the impact of computers on our society by going over the evolution of them. We're going to cover travel, war, and communications today. We're going to start with communications because mass communications would not be possible today without computers. And to understand this, you need to look at them and their predecessors. Starting in 1844, Samuel Morse sent the first telegraph message 40 miles from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. Then in 1876, Alexander Graham Bell would make the first phone call. Then a few decades later, in 1946, the first cell phone would be used by Swedish police in a police car. This cell phone was capable of making 6 calls before the car battery died. A few decades later, this would lead in 1992 when IBM created the world's first smartphone. This was a mix between a cell phone and a PDA. It was capable of sending and receiving emails, faxes, making appointments, installing third-party apps, etc. However, it was never heavily adopted. But in 2007, that all changed when the iPhone was released. This was the first heavily adopted smartphone. A few years later, Google would follow through with the Android, and the two would dominate the market since. This would result in 8.9 billion connections by 2019. Another form of mass communications is the World Wide Web. The web got its start on October 29, 1969, when the Department of Defense created ARPANET. This was a simple network connecting 2 computers. By December 5th, 1969, this network would grow to 4 computers. By 1986, there would be so many networks around the country that NSFNet went online. NSFNet would connect 5 supercomputer centers around the country and enable multiple academic and research institutes to connect to one network. Then in 1990, Tim Berners-Lee would create the World Wide Web. It's what most people think of as the internet, however it is not. It's simply a series of web pages and links that connect the network. The internet is an entire network. Tim Berners-Lee would create HTTP and HTML, the 2 basic web pages still in use today. In 1993, the web would be released to the public for free forever. This would lead to rapid expansion and development and result in 23 billion connected devices by 2019. So from simple telegraph messages to being able to call and text anyone whenever you want, to being able to find most of the information ever recorded at your fingertips in seconds, and resulting in more connections than there are people in this world, communications has had its biggest impact by the invention of the computer. Another field that has been heavily impacted by computers is war. In World War II, in order to break the Lorenz code, which was used by German high-ranking officials, the first supercomputer was made. It was called the Colossus. This machine made decipher messages go down from weeks to hours. This computer was key to our success in Normandy and many other strategic battles in World War II. Then, in 1951, a Maniac computer was built in order to perform calculations needed to create the hydrogen bomb. This computer was so effective that by 1952, we were able to create the hydrogen bomb, which is the most powerful weapon we've ever made in the history of mankind, capable of releasing at least 10 million tons of TNT. Another area is missile guidance. The first rocket to use missile guidance was the V-2 rocket by the Germans in World War II. However, in 1989, the Hellfire missile had a digital processor that would lead to greater trajectory. Then GPS systems started being put into rockets. By 2002, 69% of strike weapons were guided missiles. These missiles were guided by GPS systems and remote satellite and computer systems. These are so precise that they can travel hundreds of miles and change trajectory in minutes mid-flight. So from breaking codes to nuclear bombs to GPS-guided missiles, computers will now remain at the forefront of military research to remain superiority. The last area is travel. First, we're going to look at airplanes. In the late 1920s, the first primitive autopilot was used to control the airplane. It was used to hold the plane steady while the pilot let go of the wheel. However, by the 1950s, computers were used to predict wind tunnel tests, which saved companies thousands of wind tunnel tests and performed and improved designs. By the 1980s, most computers were so powerful that they started replacing wind tunnels completely. By the 1980s, computers were also used to store thousands of pages and designs, and in 1994, the Boeing 777 was the first computer designed only with computers. Then there's cars. Although not exactly computers, cars have started to become more technologically and electronic. Starting with electronic control units, in the 1970s, ECUs, as they're called, were starting to be used for ignition timing and transmission shifting. By the 1980s, they're used for engine management systems and fuel injection systems. Now, they're crucial for anti-locking braking, traction, skid control, and suspension control. In the last decade, cars have also incorporated computers into their systems. They have blind spot detection, pedestrian collision detection, braking and parking guidance. Cars now also have integration of phone and navigation systems, as we see in most new cars today. The average car now has between 25 and 50 microprocessors. So while planes and stars may have started purely mechanical, computers now play a role in every aspect, from production and design to safety features to functionality and comfortability. As you can see, computers have had a massive impact on our lives. From connecting us with friends and traveling the world to major historical events that shape the world, computers are always running in the background. Now that we've covered a brief history, very brief history, I hope that we can all appreciate just how important computers are and also push ourselves and the next generation to improve the tech that has the potential to improve our world. That's my speech. Thanks for listening.